Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Bloomberg Daybreak podcast, available every morning on Apple, Spotify or wherever you listen. It's Wednesday, the 24th of July here in London. I'm Caroline Hepker. Coming up today, Tesla profit falls short again as Musk demands investor patience and kicks plans for a robo-taxi down the road. BNP Paribas cashes in on French election uncertainty as European banks report earnings. Plus, Kamala Harris hits the campaign trail for the first time as the presumptive Democratic nominee, with fresh polls showing her closing in on Trump. Let's start with a roundup of our top stories. Tesla shares have fallen after the EV maker reported a fourth quarter in a row of disappointing profits. The company's operating income was $1.6 billion compared to the estimates of $1.8 billion. The electric vehicle giant also admitted that it won't unveil a highly anticipated robo-taxi until October, and that will only be a prototype. During the earnings call, CEO Elon Musk discussed the delay.
I wanted to make some important changes that I think would improve the vehicle, sort of the robo-taxi, the main thing that we're going to show. And we're also going to show off a couple of other things.
Musk's company is far off the pace of 1.8 million cars that it sold last year and warned for a second time that it expects to see a notably lower growth rate in 2024. Tesla shares fell 8% in extended New York trading, eating into the stock's recent rally but not fully erasing it. Meanwhile, Google parent Alphabet is reporting second quarter revenue that beat analysts' expectations. The results were boosted by demand for cloud computing services and search advertising, but YouTube missed sales estimates. We got reaction from Bloomberg Technology's Ed Ludlow.
This was the first quarter where cloud revenues exceeded $10 billion, but also for the first time, they kind of had more to show around artificial intelligence, all the investment and work in that field. The way that Ruth Parrott described it on the call with me was that, look, it's AI infrastructure solutions and generative AI. They're meaningful drivers of growth for the cloud business. And on the analyst call, she kind of expanded and gave an almost granular kind of run rate figure, which was that year to date, the company is generating billions of dollars in the context of cloud from generative AI and AI infrastructure.
Ed Ludlow speaking there. While second quarter sales were $71.4 billion, just ahead of an estimate of $70.7 billion. Alphabet shares fluctuated in extended trading. The stock has gained 30% so far this year. And consumer giant LVMH has reported muted sales for the last quarter. In big news here in Europe, the results come amidst a luxury spending slump in China. Bloomberg's Tiwa Adebayo has more.
Its brands include the likes of Louis Vuitton and Fendi, but household names weren't enough to bolster sales at LVMH last quarter. Wealthy customers reined in spending, resulting in a 1% rise in organic revenue from the fashion and leather goods unit. That's just half the gain analysts expected. Demand was coolest in China, which saw sales tumble 14% during the quarter, although the slump was partially offset by strong spending from Chinese travellers overseas. Savvy shoppers from the country took advantage of the weak yen, prompting a 57% increase in Japanese sales. But LVMH's CFO says the practice is hurting their margins. In London, Tiwa Adebayo, Bloomberg Radio.
Now, BNP Paribas has beaten estimates with net income of €3.4 billion in the second quarter. The French bank's results show profit of €450 million, higher than estimates on surging equities trading revenues, giving a boost to the CEO's plan to raise profitability. BNP Paribas CFO Lars Machenil says that there has been election volatility across Europe.
There was all that uncertainty that all of a sudden started to crystallize out. Yeah, so you saw these evolutions. You saw that what we had in the UK, you saw it in France, you saw it in Belgium, you saw it in many of those countries. And yes, there was some overall European volatility related to the elections that were going on all over the place.
BNP Paribas CFO Lars Machenil. Now, BNP Paribas, the share price for the lender is down about 10% since the snap French elections were called in June. And more breaking news out of Europe today. Santander beat profit expectations in the second quarter, even as net interest income slowed. Spain's largest lender posted a profit of 3.2 billion euros compared to the 3.13 billion estimated by analysts. But a surge in interest income over the last year and a half is now slowing as central banks turn attention to rate cuts. Santander, of course, overtook BNP Paribas earlier this year to become the European Union's most valuable bank on the back of record profits and increased plans to return capital to investors. And one more, of course, Deutsche Bank, which has reported second quarter earnings that have come in below expectations. The German lender reported a pre-tax profit of 411 euros versus an estimate of close to 490 million euros. Fixed income trading revenue slightly below the estimate, 2.1 billion versus an estimate of 2.15. CEO Christian Dior says in a statement that the bank is on track to meet its 2025 goals and distribution commitments to shareholders. So that from Deutsche Bank. OK, so that's all of the earnings. A quick moment to think about politics. Presidential hopeful Kamala Harris is vowing to present her political record against rival Donald Trump. Speaking to her first campaign rally in the swing state of Wisconsin, the vice president sought to draw a stark contrast between their agendas.
Do we want to live in a country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law, or a country of chaos, fear, and hate?
Vice President Kamala Harris speaking there at an event in Milwaukee. The likely Democratic nominee also promised to focus on healthcare and childcare if elected, stating that building up the middle class would be a defining goal. Meanwhile, the Trump campaign has complained to the Federal Election Commission that the transfer of Joe Biden's $96 million in campaign funding to Kamala Harris is unlawful. Here in the UK, meanwhile, Keir Starmer has suspended 7 of his own MPs for rebelling on a key vote. It comes as the new UK Prime Minister met 150 business leaders to promise stability and called for a new partnership with the private sector. Bloomberg's James Wilcock has more.
Keir Starmer suspended 7 of his own MPs for daring to vote against the new government last night. It's a ruthless move designed to send a firm signal to his party. Rebellion, especially from the left, will not be tolerated. The decision also showcases Starmer's large majority. A less powerful Prime Minister would have needed those votes. But it remains to be seen if the move will end the issue or sow the seeds of further internal disagreements to come. In London, James Woolcock, Bloomberg Radio.
Let's get some more then on Tesla, which reported another quarter of uninspiring profits. Shares in the EV maker dropped 8% after market. Elon Musk did give us a date, though, on when the robo-taxi would be unveiled. Let's get more now with Bloomberg's EV supply chain reporter, Danny Lee, who joins me. Good morning, Danny.
Good morning, Caroline.
What were we expecting and why was it such a big disappointment? What happened with these results?
I think the biggest disappointment is around the product lineup of the future, which we see officially being kicked back a little bit, both on the robo-taxi and a bit more specificity on the more affordable EV that Tesla has been touting, which will be produced and sold in the first half of 2025. So it's a little bit further than what Tesla had been guiding towards initially. But the frustration clearly is all around the earnings at the moment, the 4th straight earnings decline in a row, or the 4th straight miss in a row. And so when Elon Musk talks about pleading for patience, it's clearly going to be a tough period during this 2024 of anemic lower growth. And so we did see that come through in their profitability. Although revenue was up, revenue did though beat on expectations, but clearly when you have high costs coming to the business and lots of talk as well on tariffs, which Elon Musk has a direct stake in, given his, for example, support of President Trump.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also the robotaxi prototype that's not going to be unveiled until the 10th of October. I mean, investors have big hopes for Tesla. How much is the valuation based on what is to come?
Yeah, and this is where Elon Musk is trying to reframe Tesla into more than just being an EV player, into more of an AI trade. And so when you look at the Mag 7 stocks, you see the likes of NVIDIA and others. Clearly, Tesla has to do a lot more to try and prove its credentials. And so with stuff such as having a robo-taxi, having humanoid robots, and these are all things which will really boost this kind of valuation. But clearly, these are really hard things to accomplish. And so by having pushed back officially on the robo-taxi date by a couple of months, it's still only going to be a prototype, and that's the problem. How hard is it to get into a more realistic kind of production? And so there is that challenge there, and especially when you talk about autonomy or autonomous driving, these components which underpin the product as well. If it doesn't work as designed, and with the regulatory scrutiny, that's going to really take a hit to its prospects and its product lineup of the future, of which this very much hinges on.
Yeah, absolutely. Elon Musk talking about using humanoid robots next year. Thank you so much, Danny, for being with me. Bloomberg's EV supply chain reporter Danny Lee there on the Tesla results, one of the key results driving markets then today and last night, of course, in the US. But I also want to talk about the politics in America with just over 100 days before Election Day. The likely Democratic nominee, Kamala Harris, held a rally in the swing state of Wisconsin on Tuesday, criticising Donald Trump, also talking about how she would proudly put her record against Trump's any day of the week. Joining me now is our senior editor, Bill Ferries. Good morning, Bill. You've been great in kind of passing what's been going on in this political fray in the US. How did Harris reintroduce herself to the nation on the campaign trail, as it were? It's thought that she will energise women and young voters and black and Hispanic voters in the US, perhaps also independents. What was the tone like in the rally?
Well, I think you saw a lot more energy in that campaign rally than what we've typically come to expect in some of the Biden rallies. And it's coming after almost more than 3 weeks of the Democrats engaging in this massive wave of infighting over should Biden step out or should he not, and who would be the nominee and who shouldn't be. So that is largely resolving itself now, all behind Kamala Harris. And she took the stage, and there was a lot of enthusiasm in the crowd. And she really leaned into her experience as a former prosecutor. She was, of course, the Attorney General of California. And she tried to basically remind the audience and voters of the convictions that Donald Trump has faced, the court cases he still has against him. She said that, she's gone after predators and cheats. And so she knows, this line that she has now, she knows Donald Trump's type. That got a huge roar from the crowd. It just has a very different feel than what I think what people had grown accustomed to in the previous months in this campaign.
Also, the fundraising looks like more than $250 million raised for Kamala Harris or the Democrats since Biden dropped out. And also Trump, his campaign challenging the fact that Biden's war chest will go to Kamala Harris.
Right. The Trump campaign trying to file a legal suit against this decision to transfer it's $96 million that was in the Biden-Harris campaign war chest to basically just allow that to get transferred over to the Harris for President campaign. Most election law experts say that has little chance of going forward. Kamala Harris was already on the ticket when those delegates were chosen in the primaries, so it might be a different situation if there had been a third person or a different person picked who would have to come in and set up their own legal structure and campaign, basically starting from zero, from scratch. But a huge amount of money flowing in, partly reflective of money that had been held on the sidelines over the last month. And then I think there is some enthusiasm out there for, Kamala Harris would be the first female president the United States has seen. So that is that is drawing some attention in the same way I think Hillary Clinton's candidacy did in 2016.
Yeah, absolutely. Just lastly, who do we expect to be Harris's VP pick? This, again, is another big question still.
Yeah, the short list is still full of, leaders from some of these key battleground states. We're talking about Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania. He has not been in office long, but a Democrat winning in Pennsylvania would, could bring a lot. You have Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, the former astronaut, who could help secure Arizona. Gretchen Whitmer would make for the first female, all-female ticket in American history, the governor of Michigan. So those are the kinds of candidates, largely from battleground states, that I think the Harris campaign is going to be vetting quickly.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe, your morning brief on the stories making news from London to Wall Street and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed every morning on Apple, Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
You can also listen live each morning on London DAB Radio, the Bloomberg Business app and Bloomberg.com.
Our flagship New York station is also available on your Amazon Alexa devices. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130. I'm Caroline Hepker.
And I'm Stephen Carroll. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day, right here on Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.